Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare recess at any time. We welcome everyone to today's hearing on Sharia law in America. I will now recognize myself for an opening statement. There's a movement afoot across the United States that seeks to overthrow our legal system and the Constitution to replace it with a foreign legal system that upends our American way of life. It seeks to replace these foundational elements of our constitutional order with Islamic law, known as Sharia. The principles of Sharia are at odds with the Constitution and the laws of the United States. Sharia fails to include due process, treats non-Muslims as second-class citizens, and prescribes barbaric punishments. All the while, polygamy, misguided corporal punishment for perceived violations of Islam, and acts of violence and terrorism on behalf of Sharia are permitted by its adherents. Sharia encourages violence, silences dissent, rejects religious freedom, and subjugates women and children. Let's be clear. This is not about having the freedom of worshiping a religion of one's choosing, such as Islam, but forcing a foreign legal code that is incompatible with our laws and legal system that provides unwanted consequences to the American people. It's everything we've fought against for more than 250 years. Thomas Jefferson recognized this problem at the beginning of the 19th century when he confronted Islamists in the Barbary Wars to keep trade lanes open and end Islamic religious slavery. When envoys and future presidents, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, inquired by what right the Islamic Barbary states preyed upon American shipping, enslaving both crews and passengers, America's two foremost envoys were told by Tripoli's ambassador, quote, "It was written in the Quran that all nations who should, quote, not have acknowledged their authority were sinners, that it was their right and duty to make war upon whoever they could find, and to make slaves of all they could take as prisoners, and that every Muslim who should be slain in battle was sure to go to paradise," end quote. While the rest is history, with American Marines victorious on the shores of Tripoli as their anthem rings, the American people, this Congress, must recognize the same issue our founders identified and defeated over 200 years ago. Islamists are forcing their legal code onto non-believers by violence or the threat of it by any means necessary. The same problem of radical Islam enforcing Sharia has reared its head in the 21st century, this time using different tactics to advance it across the United States. Some of you might think of Sharia as a 2010s buzzword. That is wrong. Over the last few years, efforts to impose Sharia on American communities have taken off, and nowhere more than in my home state of Texas. In 2024, members of a Plano mosque sought to create their own 402-acre Islamic enclave governed by Sharia within the state of Texas. It was called the East Plano Islamic Center, or EPIC, and thankfully, after advocacy by many in Texas, the Texas state government has currently stymied it from advancing. EPIC's leader, Yasser Qadi, is a prominent imam with a long history of involving himself in Islamist causes, openly expressing hatred for Jews and support for Holocaust denial ideas. Despite claims Qadi renounced his earlier extremism and anti-Semitism, in October 2016, Qadi offered a defense of the Taliban. And following the October 7th attacks by the terrorist group Hamas, in which over 1,200 Israelis were murdered, Qadi declared he had, quote, the luxury of bluntly saying, "I am not going to condemn the fight of an oppressed people," end quote. However, EPIC is only one example of Sharia taking root in Texas. Shadow Islamic courts have also proliferated. One Dallas tribunal, for example, purports to make final judgments on legal disputes according to Islamic jurisprudence, placing Sharia law above binding state and federal law. Both EPIC cities and Islamic tribunals are repugnant to the spirit of the Constitution, which guarantees religious freedom and confirms that federal law is supreme. We see further evidence of a Sharia movement with imams making concerning claims. For example, in a recent video posted on X this month, a Texas imam said the following: "Mamdani is victory. We didn't succeed to conquer Vienna by the sword for 200 years, and now it's 10% Muslims. We need to enlarge the Muslim population in America." Sheikh Ustad, an imam from EPIC Mosque in Texas, preaches regularly that jihad against the non-Muslims and martyrdom is the highest cause and reward in Islam, and he praises Hamas and other terror groups, espousing the following, quote, "My brothers and sisters, we are going to die anyway, so why don't we aim to die as a shaheed?" Shaheed is Arabic for witness, but used in Islamic context for martyrdom on behalf of Allah. All of this while the Muslim observing population in Texas has grown. For example, in 2000, there were 115,000 Muslims in Texas. In 2020, the most recent data available, it's estimated 313,000, a 172% jump, and it's much greater 5 years later. One can make the claim that not all devotees agree or enforce with Sharia, but no one can deny the increase of Muslim observers in Texas, many of whom likely harbor support for Sharia's tenets. Moreover, Texas ranks third among U.S. states in the number of mosques, with 224 counted in 2020 and estimated over 300 today. Let's look at immigration numbers from those who immigrate from Muslim-majority countries, many of whom have settled in Texas. Since 2002, after the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks, the United States has issued 4.6 million green cards, or lawful permanent status, to nationals from Muslim-majority nations, allowing them to remain here indefinitely. Some of these countries include Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Cameroon, Egypt, Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Libya, Malaysia, Mauritania, Oman, Pakistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somalia, and the list goes on and on. But put another way, there's been a 48% increase in green cards to these countries from 2002 to 2023 after 9/11. We must take a sobering look at our immigration policies to ensure we do not admit those who refuse to assimilate and try to establish their own legal code in contravention of our laws. All this is particularly true when one looks at Muslims in the United States' view of Sharia and in what capacity it should exist in our country. To give a nationwide perspective, a September 2024 survey discovered the following about United States Muslims. 50% favored Sharia blasphemy law, making it illegal to show a picture or a cartoon of Muhammad. 46% were in favor of to form a Muslim political party. 39% supported broad application of Sharia in the United States. 33% wanted Islam declared as our national religion. A previous Pew study found 19% of American Muslims believe suicide bombing on behalf of Islam should be justified. These results should be troubling to every American. Additionally, Islamists and groups who adhere to Sharia have tried to influence Texas' state education system to drill Sharia into young minds. The Middle East nation Qatar has been reported as Hamas's most important financial backer and foreign ally. Qatar has provided $1.8 billion to the terrorist group Hamas since 2012. During his first term in the White House, President Trump fired off a series of posts that cast Qatar as facilitating, quote, radical ideology. That same year, former United States officials raised concerns about Qatari support for terrorism. I don't know instances in which Qatar aggressively goes after terrorist finance networks of Hamas, Taliban, or Al-Qaeda, former Defense Secretary Robert Gates stated. Taken together, the U.S. arm of the Doha-based and Qatari state-supported Qatari Foundation, known as Qatar Foundation International, claims its goal is to promote and provide support for certifying, quote, teachers of Arabic in primary and or secondary K-12 public state-funded schools. In Texas, QFI has directly funded Arabic language and culture programs in several districts, raising questions about the content and implications of such foreign-backed curricula in public education. Here are examples. At the Menara Academy, a public charter school in Irving, Texas, QFI-supported activities have included classroom materials featuring maps of the Arab world that exclude Israel entirely, replacing it with Palestine. Austin Independent School District received a $100,000 grant from QFI to launch a new Arabic language and culture program funding teacher salaries and curriculum development and instructional materials similar to what I just described. In 2015, Houston Independent School District obtained an $85,000 grant to perpetuate those curricula. Texas A&M University has received over $197 million through the Qatar National Research Fund for research contracts, additional undisclosed funds estimated over $100 million routed through the Texas Engineering Experiment Station. In fact, it was just last year that A&M shuttered its Qatar campus, which was being funded by the Qatar Foundation after it faced significant concerns over foreign influence, national security risks, and geopolitical ties. This subversion should shock every American's conscience. To better illustrate how pervasive this movement of radical Islam and Sharia is in Texas, according to data compiled by the Middle East Forum, of the 8,000 plus Islamic nonprofit organizations in the United States, almost 650 or 10% are based in Texas. One of the major Islamic networks that operate in Texas is the Qubits, which is tied to various Muslim Brotherhood branches and Hamas. How about the Council on American Islamic Relations influence in Texas, an Islamist organization that actively associates with other Islamist and Sharia-supporting groups like Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood? 3 months ago, Governor Abbott designated CAIR as a foreign terrorist and transnational criminal organization, and for good reason. CAIR is listed as an indicted co-conspirator in the 2007 Holy Land Foundation case, the largest terror financing prosecution in United States history, a case centered in Richardson, Texas. Additionally, Nabil Sadoun, a former Dallas resident and CAIR board member, was deported to Jordan in 2010 and denied re-entry after the U.S. government alleged he had lied on naturalization documents when he denied membership with Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. These examples underscore CAIR's network of spreading Sharia across Texas and the rest of the country. I'll end with one more example in Texas. In September, video footage surfaced of an imam in Houston going to convenience stores in Houston, threatening to occupy if the presumed Muslim store owners did not stop selling haram products, alcohol, pork, lottery tickets, and other prohibited items under Sharia. While some may attribute this as a non-issue or benign, can any of my colleagues point to individuals of other faiths whose tenets demand this type of force? Not opinion, but force of subservience to it. The overtaking by Sharia isn't limited to Texas, it's the entire West. An Islamic cleric from New Jersey said of Muslims overtaking the electoral system, mayors, school boards, and local communities, quote, "Where is Mecca now? It's coming. Change is coming to America. And what is Allah saying? You are the best of nations, you're better than everybody else, let's work toward that. Let's work toward a Muslim mayor." This should be a stark warning to all Americans in all 50 states. If Texas falls, so does the nation. These efforts to undermine the Constitution and demonstrate political Islam have only been worsened by an unchecked immigration system that admitted Sharia adherence into our borders. Europe gives us a clear example of what will happen if we don't close the door on Sharia now. In England and Wales, more than 85 Sharia courts operate as a parallel Islamic government, depriving women of the rights they are entitled to under British law. This year, the United Arab Emirates announced that it will end all support for Emirati students studying in the UK because of fears that students will be exposed to and join the Muslim Brotherhood, where the UAE has declared a terrorist organization, but the UK has not. As recent as last March, supporters of Sharia and other Islamists have signaled their desire to advance jihad to other nations. The Qatar-based International Union of Muslim Scholars, a global network of Muslim scholars, called for, quote, armed jihad against our friend and ally Israel. You might think the Sharia crisis is only in foreign countries or has not yet arrived in the United States, but it is here. Now is the time to protect every American's right to freely practice their own faith and defend the supremacy of other shared political system. Now is the time to take decisive action, as our founders did when confronted with the same issues today. Our nation is founded on these ideas. Sharia law shares none of these principles. By its Arabic definition, it is a law, one pushed in our country for too long. It has no place in American government. Not now or ever. With that, I will now recognize the ranking member, Ms. Scanlon, for her opening statement.